And welcome back. We're picking up where we left off last time in Songs of Six. We're gonna let time continue to advance. Building up some roads, supporting the laboratory system. I probably have a housing issue somewhere. Okay, yeah, around here, but okay. Put a little bit of housing in here, but not much we can do besides that. But yeah, apparently this is the area with the housing issue. We do longhouses. Really doesn't matter which type of house you do. The exclusive tiles to the house are roughly the same efficiency as long as you don't do the smallest one. And then the smallest one is the same efficiency as long as you're not upgrading them. The housing upgrade puts more capacity in a building. But because of how the rounding plays on that, specifically the apartment size is a little disappointing. And yeah, our pastures haven't recovered yet. How many days is that going to be? That should be soon, probably. Got some adults back in the fields. So presumably not very long. And then we'll have to reevaluate how much meat we're getting at that point. I don't think it's worth taking more on that. Probably is worth taking more on the fishing, so let's upgrade the fishing a bit. And we don't have enough fishing to do the next two. Cool. And then the rest of that probably wants to get spent on improving the bakery industry. So that's bakeries. Ration makers are actually capped out now. Unless I want to go on the specialty one. Specialty one's not quite worth it. We're not making enough innovation, or not making enough knowledge to be worth doing that. Not yet. Maybe enough for the masons. Maybe paper makers as well. Okay, that's the innovation spent for the moment. A little bit more, but it's good enough for the moment. Yeah, so no shortage in food. Making plenty of fish. Maybe a little bit shorter than we'd want to be with meat. But then we're having issues with the Baltic crawler breeders at the moment because of the coal. So we're waiting a day and a bit, it's saying, for the coal to be done. Yeah, you're working pretty well. Yeah, we've upgraded you. Apparently need to buff paper making. Doesn't surprise me too much. Oh, we've generated more innovations. Let's spend that on apparently paper making, because I need a little more paper. And And I don't necessarily want to build more paper sites right now. Do I want to give them tools? Sure, give them tools as well. They'll be the first tooled industry. And if we're making tools over there, we are probably in the right department where we want admin tools as well. Sure, it's admin tools and paper filing. Specify that both those places can use tools. We're gonna have this hauler drag tools over from the tool maker. It's this one, right? Yeah. Let's heavily assign haulers so they go grab the tools to get started. Theory, you can then grab from the hauler. Hopefully that helps with the paper production once the tools are distributed. And hopefully both of the tools in here and the extra paper we made will help make us the admin, so we can get the admin balance to go down. Which itself is also a paper buff. You old adult now? No. Should be coming up soon. We gotta... Not quite end to end, but I'm getting pretty close to end on the map at this point. The Insane Asylum catching up with the Insane. Slowly. Might be worth building another one. And you have received your tools. So that's good to see. And they've received their tools. That's also good to see. They're making more paper, but also the administration's eating more paper, so we're still not net positive paper. No, that would be worth doing, so as well, so do that. Do another round of tools at the paper makers. Again, boosting paper production. Cost of wood, but we got more than enough wood coming in from Texas. Although we're actually getting surprisingly close to not. Although, at other places I could tax wood from, so. Little column A, little column B. check up on the Empire. This place is not 300. You've hit 3,000. Okay. Let's get to 4. Which, again, I don't really got anything that I want from you besides taxes, so taking to 4 just gives you more taxes. So as this makes the border a little bit more complicated, because the border right now is... A lot of these guys got sea lanes across the lake here. So the lake is not an actual herd border. Actually, got a couple unfortified places, typically. Maybe an argument to put some fortifications along those guys. The alternative would be to attack if we have deteriorating relations. Yeah, we had... Oh, no, we had for a while. We had 1.4 opinion. Almost around about where we could have probably just thrown money at them to get trade relations back going. Oh, and I have no more governing points, so the Empire really can't get any bigger until I get the next city size. The realm is 54,000 Garthimi large. Have the animals got to full adulthood yet? No, not yet. Still suffering from reduced yield from the coal event. The coal event does, as I said earlier, provide a permanent 5% productivity bonus to all your livestock pens after you take the coal. You do have to wait for your production to get back to where it was before really benefiting from that, but long term that's good. Short term it's a bit painful. And housing, do we have housing issues anywhere? Of course, near the laboratory down there. And surprised you're having issues. Because we put 40 more housing in here. Guess we'll just upgrade these ones again. Max these ones out. And then over here, okay. Suppose I can assume, this might be a wrong assumption, assume that we are not going to see that meat production rise very much. Or enough to get the meat to go positive, and we can start working on the next boulder crawler instead. Move the door over one if I want to put the door there. The expand room over existing structure. I want to do that. Okay. There we go. And you don't need interior supports for pastures, just because of how pastures work. They don't have a upkeep. It is going to cost us extra to build this. Don't get me wrong. But wood is cheap at this point in the game. Yeah, 12 workers. That seems reasonable. There we go. Yep, it's reminding me that that's going to be extra expensive to build, but that's fine. Well, 9 slaves, so 4 Garthimi, 5 human. Looks like they're all down by the admin building. We're running out of space to put more housing. And we're by the lab den here. That's a little bit hard to deal with. Although I could build another. Oh, I could upgrade this housing block. We'll upgrade this housing block. That'll help. Oh, don't have the furniture to do that major of an upgrade. Fair enough. Or, oh no, I did. There we go. So this whole area is maximally upgraded. Which hopefully is fixed. Or, to be fair, we gotta wait until the... I think it's probably Garthimi working this warehouse. Check for housing. Or the recheck for housing happens. Because we've put more capacity in here. We need them to sort of reposition themselves. Make it work. And yeah, tempted to build another one of these. Interesting. I'm guessing these aren't actually working quite the way I want. Just turn them on and actually tell them to grab from the old clay warehouses. The clay taxmen should be dropping off at them anyway, but by doing that we get some of the clay coming in from the old warehousing. How goes the carving? Slow. Which, it's kind of normal for carving into the mountain like this, because we're only carving one doorway. I suppose if you want to get assembled faster, the way is just to clear the mountain out and backfill the multi-crawler breeder. Then you just gotta put the wall in. Put the wall back in. In this situation, we're coming in from one doorway and carving outward until we have the thing done. You just clear cut the whole thing. You can just carve from the entire exterior into the center. And then you gotta rebuild the wall when you're done. Different ways of building. Yep, we're not making enough paper. Innovation's back up, because again, the lab is productive. Feels like we did that in Finecraft tooling and distribute tools to all the Finecrafts. This would also apply to the paper maker. It gives a little bit better return, I think, than a level there. Masons, paper makers, smithies. And that would be worth it. I don't have the innovation yet. Okay, so all the paper makers have more tools. Masons have some tools. And smithies, where all the tools come from, have some tools. Yeah, with all that demand for tools, apparently we're now not making enough tools, which is perfectly believable. Because I have like one smithy making tools. It's one of the little ones, too. Just add another one. That reminds me, I should probably put some humidifiers in here. I'd gone to the trouble of leaving space for humidifiers and not, you know, putting any in. Same sort of thing with benches, put some benches in. And then I'll have to remember, because right now I think this is designated to make when you have radiation problems, we're having maintenance issues over here, am I? Yes, I am. That makes sense. Being a little far in from the janitor at this point. Place some janitor there. Well, maintenance in here. Yeah, by default I think I have that set actually to make metal because of how we copy and pasted it when it's set to making tools. Anyway, we're not making enough tools right now. Let's reach out to the neighbor and buy some tools so we can delay the need for the tools. Resource demand tools. Apparently we don't have very many tools. We're still gonna take 600 tools off of them. Go over to the other neighbors and buy another 1,000. 2,000, 2,000. 5 times the tools for 2 times the price. Oh, and now we're food positive because, yes, the raiders. A band of raiders desert borders seems they are related to the faction that was misled into attacking earlier. They seem quite a bit stronger than the first group. That also means they're unlikely that a third attempt will be made. Okay. I think our animals are, well, coming up on adulthood, so we're going to give it even more as they come up to proper adulthood. Yeah, that's good to see. Like having good metal or good meat income. Okay, let's get you starting to march over. I don't know where the bandits are going to show up. The city. Okay. It's a bigger group. It's 600 soldiers this time. Sometimes the second on that event will be region raiders instead of city raiders. If you're wondering why I was responding with the regional army. Would have actually preferred them as region raiders. Okay, so they've got a catapult, so that's annoying. Got a poorly equipped batch of archers. A moderately equipped batch of cavalry. Poorly equipped batch of archers. Okay, so this is going to be a situation where we charge. Charge fast. Because outside of the riders, there's no reason to be in tight formation against the guys we're facing today. At least until we're engaged. So, start battle. Start the time. Advance. Okay, we're gonna have the two that are gonna engage the cav, swap to tight formation right as they're about to engage. Same sort of logic with the guys engaging the archers as they engage, close into tight formation. Okay, I think that got them off the siege weapon. So now we can focus on the blocks of enemy troops, getting them circled and getting them trying to surrender due to making them feeling surrounded. And now, by weight of number, we hopefully intimidate them into surrender. Again, we do have them at number 3-1. Flanks compromise, numbers, formation, however, is intact. Flanks compromise, numbers, formation is intact. their formation isn't intact, so the cavalry is probably most likely to be the first thing to break. I would guess. Although, they are pretty well equipped. Nope. Oh, I'm wrong, the archers break. First. And of course the cav follow quite quickly behind when they're all that's left. There we go. Lost 79, probably mostly to arrow fire. The enemy lost their full 600. Amnion had gathered in his host great winged lizards, giant worms, snakes, and insects the size of onyx, and they clashed with the centaurs at the foot of Mountain Amnion. The earth shook, and the fire erupted from its peak. The fire consumed all of the great creation and turned it into ash. The enemies beaten, rejoice. Spoils from the victory, or from the battle will soon arrive. Do you wish to accept the captives, or should we release them, my lord? These are humans. I'm gonna take the humans. We're gonna probably have some mission issues with the humans after the fact. Because of bringing more slaves in, but... Oh, we are good and food positive. Yeah, that's good to see. So we should see the meat stockpile increasing over time now. And of course, in the intervening chaos, we did, in fact, lose a decent number of soldiers. Am I wrong that the number showing might be the untreated ones? Because I've got 200 in treatment. Okay, so 72 untreated, 200 being treated. Fair enough. Okay, looks like the automata was trying to eat your decision or your comment there. Let me see if I can figure out where we're missing some words. He's got 25 soldiers and I have 0. Yeah, well, they tend to show up if you're under defended because of the bandit mechanics work. Demanded all your meat and stone. Yeah, they tend to do that. Well, not all, but a decent amount. So here in Raiders, you can see a lot of the low, weak Raiders are in hiding. And there's a batch in the middle here, where they're at large, and then there's distant. So, how distant Raiders will be, but interested in you to be considered at large, is how wealthy the settlement is. So the wealthier you are, the more distant they will be attracted from. The stronger the garrison, the higher the bar to which the enemy will be less willing to raid you. So in this case, we've got 2,000-something guys in the town, right? And okay, they're poorly trained, poorly equipped militia, but that's enough to scare off some of the weaker guys. Right, they look like they need over 500 power here for me to want to be at large for raiding me. And then we're not wealthy enough to necessarily attract people as large as Kai the Defiler here. Even though I wouldn't necessarily have too much of a problem with fighting them, because he doesn't necessarily have a lot of guys, right? We're intimidating guys with number, mostly. Which is why we're winning a lot of these fights. And then Twitch chat, you're saying, year 3, I can't get soldiers yet. I think soldiers are based on level. So you can definitely get soldiers within the first 3 years of the game, because you just got to get your population up to 200. Which if you're a little bit experienced with the game, you can do pretty quickly. Right, because there's training ground, you can get them pretty early in the game if you're trying to get them. So year 3 is maybe not super early, but Yeah, usually year 3, if someone comes along demanding payment from you, just pay them. Yeah, well, you can't use them at all until they train. So, soldiers, and you can kind of see it in here. I click on these guys. Before you can use them at all, they need to train the minimum number of days to sort of be considered a recruit, which is 10 days by default. Every time you want to train them, if you want to train them more than the minimum, say you want to give them some melee training, each level adds another 10 days to the training time to get them trained to that level. I think you only need the base 10 days of training before they're usable. So you can have them at 0% training, but set to train to like 50, and they'll still be able to show up in your armies. But you do need to do the first 10 days of training. And you don't necessarily need to train the whole army at once. So, for example, we got an army of 2,000. I'm only training 200 at a time. You know, that's because on average my Garthis are living long enough that I can obviously do multiple training batches before they have to be replaced. And training, like everything, does decay in this game, so you do every once in a while need to send your guys in for refresher training, so you can't do an infinitely large army out of like 10 training spots, but you can get a pretty large one out of 10 training spots. But yeah, usually as early as year 3, you just pay them off. They're not going to take all your meat in stone. They're going to take like a quarter or a half or something like that. And what you could do, if they really are demanding like more than half the treasury, is you let them come in and raid you. And when they raid you, they only take half your stuff. So if they're actually asking for more than half your stuff, just let them raid you and they'll take half your stuff and you just fix the stuff and you'll be back and functional. You don't lose the game if the raiders win. You just lose stuff. Can't use tools in the bakeries. Could use it in the crafting tools. Okay. That's probably worth doing. Yeah, the richer you are, the more likely they are to raid you. Although, year 3 is pretty early for a raid. It's all probabilities, so it's... if you're wealthy enough, they can start raiding you, but if you're vulnerable to being raided by someone, they're sort of rolling a dice in the background. If they decide that it's time they come to raid you, they come raid you. So it can take very little time or a lot of time for them to show up. There's 3 industries. Oh, pots as well. So it's pot, rations, tailors, and carpentry that I just got tools for. So yeah, okay, I've done the 4. Of course, that means I need more tools. Oh, the tool maker hasn't finished. My tool import from you probably arrived. Did the tool import from the other guy arrived? Probably. I suppose I can just buy more tools. Resources... 2K tools? And then that shows the map and takes its sweet time getting over here. Although I suppose the previous one might still be inbound. And I am here. Can your janitor pull furniture from the market to repair your outpost? Does they go to market there too? No, I do not believe so. Oh, and this is actually a probably a good thing to hint about, if you haven't learned it. Markets... Because markets are providing furniture and clothes to your people. That's a food stall, that's not a good example. There's a market. Can I click on the market, please? Thank you. So, markets distribute stuff to your citizens. If you don't want them to stock things, turn it off. So, for example, I'm distributing clay, stone, and clothes to my citizens. The Garthimi only want clay, stone, and clothes, so I don't want them to stock livestock, because that's what Talapi want. Don't want to stock fish, because that's what Amivians want. They don't want leather. Amivians want leather. They don't want jewelry. Actually, I suppose they do want jewelry. That's something I could distribute. That's in access up here. So they would like jewelry, but I'm not giving them jewelry. No jewelry for them. Zithlin ore is only wanted by the Dondorians, so on and so forth. How do you know what they want? Okay, so easiest way to find what a pop wants is go right-click on the pops, and it gives you a breakdown by category of what they want. As far as furniture, so what pops want to pick up from the market is their equipment and their furniture. So, for example, here's the Garthimi. They want clothes and they want jewelry. And the jewelry is not super valuable from a fulfillment standpoint, so I'm probably not fussed to deal with it. Furniture is usually fairly valuable, except for the Garthimi. The Garthimi it's actually in 3.5, but... and then, yeah, allowing housing to be furnished, you do that in the furniture here in the Access tab. And this is what people want from the market. So you can see all of them want clothing, except the Argonash, and jewelry, except for the Argonash. The furniture needs for their housing is the main thing that changes. So, for example, the Amivians want fish for furniture. They also want fish for food, but... yeah, that is my understanding. They go to the markets to pick up their furniture and their clothing. So if you haven't told them to go collect furniture to furnish their homes, then the market will still collect it. And that's why I recommend if you don't want to distribute something at the market, turn it off. Because the market will still go collect things if you turn it on. For example, if I came to this market and I turned on livestock, for example, the market will now start going and grabbing livestock. And if we wait long enough, we might actually see it grab some. I think I have livestock around here. But, for example, from a furniture need, the only only race that wants livestock is the Talapi. So if you don't have Talapi, you probably don't want your market stocking livestock, because then it's just sitting there not being used. So I'm going to turn it off so they go put it back. And markets like haulers are outdoors, so things stored in them, I believe, decay at twice the normal rate that they would in a warehouse. Or, more importantly, things in the warehouse decay at half the normal rate. That's probably a better way to think about that. So, if you're not using it, don't take it to the market. Same sort of thing with the food stall. Food stalls are also important for other reasons, because pops will go eat their survival ration, the minimum food they need to not starve from warehouses. But if you want to feed them more than one ration, then you need food stalls or restaurants to serve them at. But again, when it comes to food stalls, if you don't want to serve it, don't have the food stalls collect it. Because in the case of starvation reasons, they'll still go collect it if they want it, and they have to go someplace else for it. But you get a fulfillment need, and if you're serving more than one serving, they got to go to the food stall or the restaurant. But yeah, so for example here, the Garthimi like meat and fish. They're not interested in bread. We're making bread because we're turning it into rations. The army is basically eating bread, but the citizens here want fish and meat. And I probably need a few more food stalls. We're seeing all the red here. But that's why I've got bread and rations turned off. Because no one actually wants rations. The army and the insane eat it, but the citizens don't want to. Rations as a side effect sort of make really good, like, emergency food stockpiles. Because no one wants to eat it, but everyone will eat it. And then the Garthimi, like, as I said, have a preference for fish and meat. And then bread is just a convenient thing to turn into rations, which is why I'm making bread. You can see the bread is preferred by Dondorians and humans. Fish is actually quite a few different people. Meat is... most people like meat. Although meat for a lot of races is a little bit of a luxury. So maybe don't focus meat unless you're one of the races that super focuses on meat. And then you can, say you're running a multicultural city, you can specify that certain races are only allowed to pick up certain things, independent of if they're in the food stalls. For example, I've set the Garthimi to only pick up fish and meat. You could have a food stalls picking up fish, meat, and, say, fruit. And then if you're in a mixed city with, like, the Talapi, you might be saying, okay, well, the Talapi want the fruit, the Garthimi want the meat. So the Talapi can have fruit, Garthimi can have meat, and you can have the food markets work that way for both of them. And you can designate that in here. Same sort of thing with the servings, or the furniture, right? If you don't turn the furniture on, it's not distributed. Retirements on occupation. So right now the retirement rate is anyone over 25% of their, well, within 25% of the end of their normal lifespan would be retired. So technically I have a couple people who are retired because they're just that old. But most people aren't retired here because we haven't buzzed the number. And in fact, I should probably turn the number down because they're not like they're getting a retirement home to live in right now. And then in the service tab, if you want to turn a particular service off, like I say, the Dondorians, or whatever reason, aren't allowed to use service X. You can click the check mark and turn it off. For example, the Dondorians will go to massage parlors. They don't get any fulfillment from them, so that's a perfectly reasonable thing to just turn off for the Dondorians. For example, here, these two don't like the fight pits. The Dondorians don't like the fight pits, so by default those start turned off. You might want them to go to that service for a reason, and you turn them back on, for example. For example, like this is one of the titles requires 70% fulfillment on fight pits. So you might turn it on for that achievement. And it's supposed to be an argument with the massage parlors as well. There's an achievement for getting a certain amount of fulfillment of that. And then the two specialty races are very pruned on what they care about. They're very easy to please. Although it's very hard to get a lot of them anyway. How goes the carving? Okay, so the janitor is done. That should help with maintenance in the local area. Yeah, it's working at full tick, and I've only just finished setting it up, so doesn't look like it's having any issues getting anything we need. I think over here needs cloth, so I'm not worried about it being out of cloth. Same thing with gems. Okay. Improving the degradation, so those buildings should work better now. I probably need more storage for swords. Go for another warehouse? Probably go for another warehouse. Plop a warehouse there. Good chat saying, how do I get enough meat without hunters as I scale? My piggy pastures don't seem to get much at all. Yeah, only know the Dominator Cloud. That's an annoying event, but it's a fine event. How to describe food production? So, most of your food production buildings, besides the hunter, hunter's pretty powerful because the hunter's got a pretty good recipe. It's 1 worker to 2.2 by default. So that means every hunter can feed, before you start hitting the diminishing returns because of size on the hunters, they can feed 4 people for every hunter. A lot of the food buildings are somewhere between 1 to 2 to 1 to 4. So the pastures are pretty much like build anywhere, assuming you can get them enough moisture to them. But they're usually pretty bad ratios. They're easy to work, but they're not particularly productive working. So the antelopes here, it's showing bad for us because we're actually bad at working them. These usually make about 1 meat per worker. So that's enough to feed 2 people by default. And yeah, that can be a little bit taxing if you're trying to do meat. Once you get big enough that you get nobles, if you have a noble assigned to an industry, they provide a +2 buff, additive buff, for a certain number of workers. So it's by default it's 50. Every time you promote them, it's another 100. If you assign multiple nobles to the same industry, their numbers add. Not the buff, but the numbers of workers it applies to. So one way you can make your meat industry more effective is add nobles to them. And I think I technically have nobles on my Baltic crawlers here. You can see we're getting a 2 bonus from nobles. I've got a lot of bonus here from technologies. Once you get big enough, you can add technologies to make buildings bigger. And then you've got experience building. The bigger you make an industry, the more experience you get. I think it's every 50 workers the modifier goes up. It might be a scaler after 50. I'm not sure. But it scales between 50 and 1,000? Might be 2,000. I'm not going to make the tooltip pop up because I have to unemploy the industry to make that do. Because it pops up when you go over 50, or drop below 50. But all those additives add up, and then they get multiplied by the work rate of the building and the multipliers. So most of the pastures, if their goal is to make food, have effectively a work rate of 1 for food production. The Baltic crawlers in particular are actually nominally fairly bad, because they got a work rate of 0.7. They work well for the Garthimi, because the Garthimi have a species 3x bonus on them. So you're multiplying the whole output by 3, so 0.7 times 3 is 2.1, and that's pretty good. That's up there with farms. Conversely, farms only give a harvest once a year, but they got a work rate of 2x. Except for except for grain farms, which are 4x, but grain isn't directly edible, so you have to build a bakery, and it works out to about 2 once you do the greater exchange on that math route. But yeah, so Boulder crawlers, early game are kind of hard to feed a lot of people with, or pastures in general are a little bit hard early game to feed a lot of people with. Fisheries are sort of between farms and pastures. They're not built everywhere, so you're limited by building on the coastline. But you can see here they got a work base rate of 1.4. And 1.4 obviously is better than 1 for your usual meat producing industry. And then a lot of the all of the industries that make some sort of industrial good that are pastures also produce meat. Usually they make enough to feed the pasture worker. So if you have an onyx pasture, you're going to make enough meat to feed the guy running the pasture, and your primary goal is probably to make fiber. Same sort of thing with the archons here. You're probably going to make enough meat to feed the guy working the farm, or working the pasture, but your primary goal is to make leather. Globadine and Antelope, these three are sort of your primary meat makers. This is meat under the mountain, unless you're Garthimi, and then there's meat everywhere. Antelope is your primary meat source. Globadine is if you want eggs. And they're all about, if you're the right race for them, they're all about the same. Which is a long-winded way of saying build more. Outside of farming, nothing is as competitive as hunting is at the beginning. Although everything else scales up where hunting scales down. So you're sort of at your sweet spot with hunting around 15, 16. And then once you get big enough that you can have an empire, you can go out and make the empire make food for you. So for example here, I've got this city providing 1,379 fish per day. Shipping it back to the city. You have 60 hunters right now. Okay. I don't know if that... Is it 60? I think that's about the window where if you add any more, it's actually going to get worse per worker. Or it's already getting worse per worker. It might be getting worse industry-wide as well. Forget where the sweet spot range is. It's not very wide. I know we're already at the point where we're taking a penalty. We've only got 16. Although 16 is giving us a 0.02 multiplier penalty, which isn't that bad. And again, we're mostly doing it for leather. I got decent amount of innovation. You want to do more crude crafting tools? No, or am I making tools? No, we haven't carved out the smith yet. I'm gonna wait until the smith is carved out before I do that. Oh, and I'm mostly caught up with the ranged. Okay. And you might actually get more meat by having fewer of them, as weird as that sounds. Yeah, because I think I would get more meat with my 16 than your 60 you're getting. So, the multiplier does surprisingly amount. And the multiplier does go all the way down to 0, so you do have to be careful. You could build to the point where you have 0 output. But yeah, I've heard people say the sweet spot is like 15 to 40. Past 40, you start reaching the point where you're just shrinking the industry by adding more workers. So, I wouldn't necessarily lower it very much, but I think 60 maybe is a little overkill. Right now we're waiting for that smithy to build. I can probably get some other work going. Yeah, I probably should build another lab. Sounds good. And, well, there's definitely lots of different ways you can play different races. I think the Dondorian the Dondorian run that I streamed, I think I did, like, mostly pure fish. Because the Dondorians also like fish. And I was running in that one multicultural, so I was dragging in Amivians to do all the fishing for my, my Dondorians. Yeah, that sounds about right. Sounds a little bit more like what you'd expect from the workers. No, it's technically not per turn. It's, well, I suppose you could treat a day as a turn. It's per per day, not per turn. But I get what you mean by saying per turn. Did it? I would have to look at the math. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where the sweet spot is. I also don't know how much you turned in. Again, I've heard people say it's about 4 days where you get maximum output. And if you had them all in meat and you swapped them over to leather, then that's probably also not helping, because even on leather is competing with meat for hunters. Because the whole size of the hunting industry, not what product you're making, that counts for the number. That's fair enough. I don't know how aggressive the diminishing returns is from going from 30 to 60. Yeah, but definitely as it gets bigger, though, you get less value per hunter. I'm not sure where the point is where turning the number up lowers the overall output, because there is a point in the curve. I just don't remember where the curve point is, because it's sort of parabolic from 15 to where it drops to 0. It goes up as you add workers, because each individual worker is down, but the slope becomes less and less steep until it turns into a negative. Not sure what the exact number is where it turns into a negative. Somebody need to go around and upgrade my shrines, but I need to bring more iron in for that. Dominator Cloud overhead. I don't have the opium to medicate people, so people are just gonna go insane. We had the insanity under control. And then the Cthulhu Cloud showed up. And yeah, you're saying you bet 40 is the sweet spot. I think that's what I've heard from other people saying. I haven't specifically myself tested to make sure if it's 40, but that's the suggestions I've heard from the Reddit as well. So. Okay. I should make a decent amount of metal. Go buy some metal and do the shrine upgrades. So do one upgrade. Give it a while for the maintenance to kick in. Expecting the maintenance to make that go down, not up, but okay. No. Didn't help my information. Okay. Let's hop over to the neighbor. At least the one with big pockets. Can you give me... $2 million worth of metal? I'll give you $2 million in exchange for it. Could upgrade the library tools. Tempting. You're getting 212 meat a day with 40 hunters, and 256 a day with 60 hunters. Okay, so it still sounds like you're getting a little bit more with 60 hunters than 40. But yeah, definitely diminishing returns. And the 20 additional hunters themselves are going to eat 10 meat a day. So, and they could be doing something else and making meat at that point. And then you probably got some tech modifiers in there as well. Yeah, because I got a +1 in tech, and I remember you said you invested some innovation points into hunting. You can sort of see the math in there, right? So it's number of workers times the work rate times the multipliers, and then it's 1 plus the additive multipliers that gets multiplied to all of that to produce your output. And sadly, hunters, unlike the rest of the industries, has 1 additive, which comes from tech. Whereas a lot of the other ones have a lot of additives and very few multipliers that kick in usually. So it's a little bit easier in the long run to scale the other industries. They definitely start out a lot weaker, because they're a lot harder to get the initial throughput. Yeah, you've got yours on level 3. I think mine might be on 2. Where is it? Yeah, mine's on 2. And then the bonuses cap it at 8. Still carving on that smithy. The metal we bought hasn't arrived. Somewhere in transit. Probably try to go find it. Oh, there it is. There's the 4.5K. Over. Probably 3 odd droppers running over with, well, 2 with pots and 1 with cut stone to finish that building up. Oh, I forgot this event causes a massive productivity buff. Oh, what's your question? So you say, oh yeah, I got a question, bro. What's your question? Do you need to outfit your garrison army with the supply depot? And the answer to that is no. The garrison army can just grab from the stockpile when they deploy. You need this. You need the army depot for supplying the army on the map. So I've got an army on the map of 1,000 guys. So these guys have to receive their supplies via army depots. Yeah, that's what you use to supply your army that's on the global map. Now, I could move guys from the city garrison to an army on the map. In which case, when they go out on the map, you're going to have to supply them via that army depot. And that includes what they would run into battle with, if they were the garrison. So if your guys attack, or if guys attack your city, does it take a while for your garrison forces to go grab the equipment? No. The game is nice enough, that if you've got an invasion going on, it'll pop up a pop-up, like it did earlier in the stream, and say, you're being invaded, do you want to... Well, specifically it says, do you want to attack? You've got an opportunity to attack the enemy before they attack the city. So if you want to basically sally forth from your fortifications to attack the enemy and go into an open field battle, if you press the attack them button, your guys will just show up in the field of battle with their equipment. With whatever equipment they can basically... Whatever equipment you told them to equip from the warehouses. Which is why I've told all my guys, like, oh yeah, go grab a suit of armor, go grab a spear. They're not currently holding the spear or holding the armor. In fact, they're going about whatever job they currently have. Instead, it's just sitting in the stockpile. In fact, arguably, I don't have enough in the stockpile, so if we were to go to defensive battle, that equipment would go missing. Or it wouldn't show up in the field, right? So we've got 700 of the 160, or 1,600 spears that the garrison needs. The garrison actually doesn't have enough spears for everyone, for example. We've got enough Fakala. Apparently I have enough shields. I'm not making any shields, but we would have enough shields if we were equipping the guys with shields. Got enough leather armor, and I've got enough plate armor at the moment. So if you have 0 soldiers, you can't sally out at the enemy. I'm not sure if you can raise militia forces in the city. There are some units that you can deploy in the city. And if your city's under attack and you haven't sallied out, you could have your guys, organize your guys in the city for defense purposes. So right now we're in common view. How did I swap? Oh, there's battle mode. So I could toggle into battle mode, and I could tell units in the city, hey, I'd like you to mobilize for battle. Obviously, I'm not going to do that right now because it doesn't make much sense, because the city is under attack, or isn't going to be under attack. And I think when you do that, they still poof into existence with their gear. I'm not sure if they go over on their gear. I haven't had to defend the actual city map. Usually, my city maps only come into attack when I've lost a field battle, which is effectively what has happened when you had 0 soldiers. If you had 0 soldiers, they're basically treated like you've lost the field battle. And then they go push into the city, and they want to push in and get to your throne room. So right now, in my case, my throne room is actually in a pretty bad spot. It's in the middle of the city. If you can, and you can technically move the throne room, so you can pick up the throne room and move it someplace else. If you do that, you can put the throne room, say, near the border of the town, in the hopes that the raiders will just go straight to the throne room and not go through the middle of your town, killing people as they go. You can also set up artillery batteries. There's a technology you can get in the tech tree that allows you to set up artillery batteries. And there's the muster troops button. Again, I haven't had to do that in a city battle, because usually I'm only having city battles if I've lost the field battle, in which case the army's dead, and they're not going to show up in the city battle because they're dead. But you can get walls, you can get fortifications, you can get artillery. So you can have a walled fortress with artillery behind it, which you can effectively shell the enemy as they attack. And if you have walls, right, you might want to actually do a city battle, because then you can have your archers sit behind the walls and train them in pit cushions from behind the walls. Yeah, possibly. I haven't had to do a city battle, so I'm not sure if they go grab their weapons and stuff. But also, when people attack you, usually they take time to organize themselves on the field of battle. So you've got some time before they go running off to the fort, or off to the throne. But yeah. Do you have any other questions before we bring the stream to close? I realize I'm overdue to bring the stream to a close. Might wait here long enough so I can remember to tell the smithy to do tools. I need a little bit more tool production. And if I don't do the swap now, I'll forget, and this will be on armor when we load it up next time. Down in the warehouse, that's good to see. And we got a couple blocks in here to carve out. It shouldn't take that long. How many workers working on one of these? 40. Let's actually bring another 100 people into the town. Get a few more odd jobbers to come over here. Anyway, we've got a temporary bonus from one of the events here, which is a 10% modifier to a whole bunch of stuff. This will go away, so I'm mostly going to ignore it as far as it concerns laboratories and libraries. Which is why I have a bunch of science at the moment that we're not using. One tile in here, waiting for someone to come do it. It's probably already been claimed, so we're waiting for the one who's claimed it to get over there and carve it in. There we go. Somebody's working on it. See the one guy chipping away at the wall. There. Everybody's gonna haul the stuff in. I suppose I can actually get a couple doors. I'll wait until I finish it before I... In fact, I'll futz with this one to put the doors in. Refurbish the room. Door. Not there. There. There you go. Not that there's any reason that you need to wander back and forth between the two smithies. Okay, they've constructed the room and are quickly constructing all the furniture within it. And like that, we now have the smithy built, and we're going to set this one to tools. So it should be tool positive now. Yeah, 25 tools positive. And I've got enough metal in. I can probably go around and do a bunch of the shrines before I forget about them. That's why we're importing the metal. Don't have enough for the last, but close enough. Oh, now I'm metal short. I don't need to remember to... Oh, I'm gonna queue the metal smelter up, but I'm not gonna wait around for it. I think that's where we're going to bring it to a close. The city's definitely coming along. We have a little bit more knowledge, so I'll have to revisit the knowledge because we got a second laboratory up. But yeah, got more knowledge that we're actually going to hold on to because we're going to drop probably back down to that level. Although it doubles the lab, we'll figure that out at some point next time when the Dominator Cloud modifier goes away. Out on the realm map, are getting fairly big, although we spent all the government points I've got. We got 56,500 subjects. We got 7,000 in the city. Next title rank happens at 8,000. Keep the loyalty and the submission at 100% when we get there. We'll pick it up, because this one's particularly onerous to pick up, because you're going to have loyalty and submission gapped out when you hit it. Whereas the rest before that just require a population number. But another 16 noble promotions will be great, at least for expanding the empire. The last one here is pretty hard. 12k is a lot. Also, you've got to keep the 100% loyalty, 100% submission, and you've got to get up to 8 regions. If we get to there and we have a stable empire, that's probably where we're going to bring the stream, or bring the run to a close. If we don't run out of time before then. Title-wise, I think we've picked up most of the ones we're going to pick up this run. Artisans have been picked up. I suppose I could buy a bunch of slaves and free them. Not planning on doing that. Bureaucrat Caretaker. Children of the Sun. Yeah, we're not doing that sort of farming. We haven't that many accidents, although we could, if the run goes long enough, we could get that many accidents. We've turned the accident rate down because it was suppressing pop growth. Not really going to go for Drunkard. Got both of those. Got Heaviest of Hands. We got Lifebringer. This is not a run where we did Merciful. We're doing Merciless. We got the Riches of Kings, which we didn't get in any previous runs. Did Warden North as the Dondorians, but this is a hot climate, so we got Ruler of Sedge in B. Oh, apparently my temple isn't servicing enough people, so I could probably build another temple to get Seer of the Gods. We're not going to rush to do that right now. Or in later streams, we might not rush to do it either. Decent possibility of picking up the Great. Picked up the Mad, picked up the Nudist. Apparently we've only, well, we never ever killed 40,000 people, so that's not surprising. And we haven't conquered that much, or haven't had that prowess. That's percent of wins, so that's actually probably pretty hard. Builder, we haven't have 3 metropolises, although that would be a really nice bonus. Victor of the Realms. We've only defended against 5 invasions. Only have 1,000 slaves. Bonus for getting for 3,000. Haven't assassinated any royalties. We've sadly been defeated quite a few times, so we're not the undefeated. The Unifier. We've united 3 kingdoms. I could actually go pick that up right now. We're not going to go pick that up right now. And unite with a 4th. And then the Wise. We're not doing that sort of education, but that's the state of the titles at the moment. Anyway, we've got a fairly nice empire at this point. At some point we might want to try to do something with the guys down here, although we're currently got an alliance with them. And then again, I'm at the point where I can probably monetarily unify with these two, the 2 1 provinces. And then we have a pretty good contiguous territory. Outlier of this one city down here, which is behind these guys. Yeah, nice. Not world empire. I have seen people on Reddit do world empires, but nice empire. And we're not just spamming cities to take stuff over. We're actually making decent-sized cities as well, which is real nice. If you're watching on Twitch, this is probably the last opportunity to get comments responded to while the stream is live. If you're watching on YouTube, if everything goes according to plan, there should be another part up tomorrow. Although, just a reminder, we're recording on version 70. At this point, I think this is the YouTube part that will be going up on the 16th. So this will probably be the day after version 71 comes out. So you, if you're playing this live on YouTube, may have a different version of the game than I do. If you're watching on Twitch, just delayed the ad because I'm just doing the outro here. You probably don't want the ad as we're going away. Today was Songs of Six. Tomorrow we're going to be playing Old World. The day after that we're going to be playing Shadow Empire. The day after that we're going to be playing Factorio in the Pteranodons mod. And then on Saturday, it'll probably end up going into Sunday as well, but late Saturday, early Sunday, like really early Sunday, like talking AM, we're going to be playing Songs of Six again. So it'll be starting on the 6th. So obviously if you're watching this on YouTube, recording ahead for a trip, for 2 trips later in the month. So the side effect, we're recorded ahead to account for that. You're about 2 weeks behind at the moment. Although I'll be out for about 2 weeks, so when I do take those trips, you'll very rapidly sort of catch up with Twitch, because Twitch isn't going to be any new content along that. So I hope everyone has been enjoying. That, again, is the upcoming schedule. We're looking Old World, Shadow Empire, Factorio, back to Songs of Six. Rinse and repeat until we finish some of those runs. Although we might finish Old World in the next stream of that. In which case I'll replace it with something else in the cycle. So, and this was final reminder, I am streaming this live to Twitch under the username Wilcol. So if you're watching this live on Twitch, you probably recognize that. I'm uploading the local recording, which should be in 1080p and 60 frames per second, to YouTube under the username Wilcol100. So if you're watching that on Twitch and you want to see the versions that are from earlier runs, that's all on YouTube at this point. Most stuff should be posted and released on YouTube prior to it coming down off of Twitch, because the Twitch VODs stay up for 14 days. If you're watching this on YouTube and you can't wait till tomorrow's episode, you can probably sneak over to Twitch and watch the Twitch VOD, because the Twitch VOD should still be up. Although, it might only be up for a couple days after it. Because again, I'm recording ahead of the moment. So with that, I'm going to wish you all the best of luck and a good time. Catch you all in the next part and/or stream, and bye for now.